Take it easy, Pete. Start again.
This is Pete Feenstra on Monday, the 6th of April, 2009, in the heart of London, talking to the guitar legend that is Joe Satriani. Thanks for being here, Joe.
Thanks for having me.
You're here to talk about Chickenfoot, the brand new project, new album, and the show that you've got coming up in London. I believe it's at the Shepherd's Bush Empire.
On the 25th of June.
Do you know well? You played there before, of course.
Yes, yeah.
With the G3 project.
Yeah.
And the album comes out when exactly?
June 8th. Yes, here in the UK, June 8th.
On Air Music.
Yes.
Is that a German label?
It is, from Adele?
Yes,
Edel?
yeah.
I don't know how they pronounce it.
How did you hook up with them for this particular project?
We were looking for an independent route from the beginning because we got together on a whim and we decided no outside influence. So we paid for the whole project ourselves and we waited until we decided we liked it.
Yeah.
And then we said, okay, now we're ready for the music business. And then we figured, well, we're all associated with Sony, Warner Brothers, Roadrunner individually. So how do we do this? So it seemed like the independent route was a good idea. So we picked Best Buy in North America, and then we started looking for something independent that had a huge distribution and a good musical staff. And Edel was the one.
Was the one, yeah. So on the basis of that, you're starting a tour, I believe, in Europe as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
which kind of makes sense.
We're going to do this little like "Hello, how are you" kind of club thing for the press and some rabid fans at the middle of April through the U.S. But only about 4 or 5 shows.
Yeah.
But the real tour starts here in Europe. It's primarily a festival tour, but we picked 4 or 5 places to do an actual solo show. Right. One of them will be the Shepherd's Bush show.
Yeah, great. So this band came out of basically having a jam with Michael Anthony, with Sammy Hagar, Chad Smith, a super group after all, which we'll talk about in a minute. How far back does that go then, the origins of that, when you first started working?
Well, I was in a band with Mike and Sam about 7 years ago for like a second. We were in a band called Planet Us.
Right.
And
good name.
It just didn't work out because Neil Sean and Dean Castronova from Journey were in it, and we all had these other bands that were demanding our attention. So we couldn't get that off the ground. But I've known Sam for a while, so he just gave me a call one day and said, "Come on, let's go to Vegas. I'm doing a show. We'll jump on stage at the end and have a jam." It just turned out that the jam was so good that we decided we had to do something about it. So we followed it up with a writing session and then followed it up with another recording of demos, and it just kept getting better and better. So we just, every 2 months, we'd find 3 days to get together again until we wound up at the end of last year, and we booked a stretch of weeks up in Northern California at Skywalker Studios and did the record. Yeah. So.
But it's one thing to jam, and it's something completely different to actually lay down some material and find a direction. Mm-hmm. Was that a problem? I mean, you're all immensely individual talents, but I mean, where did the style come from? Did you sit down and say, this is going to be a hard rock album, this is going to be the new Zeppelin album? Where did all that come from?
No, I mean, that's a good question, because I wondered that myself. Yeah. After the fade of the volume and the lights and everything, and I'm sitting at home, I'm going, this is great, but what are we? What is Chickenfoot? What kind of songs do these guys like? And I didn't know them well enough.
Really?
And so I wrote, the first demo CD I made for them maybe had 6 or 7 songs, and it was stylistically like all over the map.
I imagine.
And I just thought, maybe they'll like one of them. And so it really did work, but what I found out was that they liked the stuff that was rock and roll-y, They liked the stuff that was kind of weird and dark. Yeah. And so I thought, well, this is great because I'm getting positive response from a wide variety of styles. So I just kept doing that. And there'd be, if I did a 7-song demo, I'd get thumbs up on 6.
Right.
And a bit like, I don't know about that number 7, And so that would inform me like, okay, Sam doesn't want to have to sing 1,000,000 words over a super fast tempo song. And then I'd say, okay, I won't write any more like that. And
but would these all be finished songs, or would these just be guitar?
No, they'd be like demos that I would put, V drums, and I'd play bass, and I'd put a bunch of guitars on, and I'd leave the vocal melody to Sam, and he would come up with his own approach on it. And then the Mike and Chad would listen to it, and they'd just change it however they wanted to. Yeah. They'd go from something that had all cymbals to all tom-toms, you know. I mean, sometimes Chad would take it radically different. And then some of the demos had no drums or bass on it at all. It was just a camera like this, and I'd just play a part. And I'd do like a minute and a half version of the song. I'd email it to them, and I'd say, if you like it, then I'll finish it. You know? And so that turned out really good, too.
But so they had quite a creative input then?
Yeah, the whole band did. It was really the opinions of everybody in the band that really informed the style of the record.
Yeah, and the style of the record, it has been said, it may have been you, it may have been Sammy, it might be any of the guys, that this is like Led Zeppelin. Was that a statement of intent, of confidence in the project?
I think that was something that Sammy said that he wished he hadn't. But I think what he meant was that he was trying to explain that it was a band that was capable of rocking in the most solid way without any modern affectations. And I guess somehow he was looking for some band that he admired that had that sort of quality to it. So Led Zeppelin came out. Of course, the quote was changed to "We're as good as Led Zeppelin," which he regretted.
Well, no, I think it's a great album. Where do you see it fitting in the contemporary rock circuit or market? Well, if there's such a thing, because it's all so fragmented.
You know what, you got to make your own market.
Yes,
that's the way it is. I learned that with my instrumental music, which was like the worst idea ever, to do an instrumental rock and roll album. But then I thought, well, I'll just create my own market.
That's a great idea.
And I'll just do what I like, and then if people come, then that is the market. So I don't think we're worrying about that. We're 100% committed to the music that we've created on this record. How it fits into the world, we don't know. We're not even bothering to ask ourselves that question. And
it's been widely reported that for many years you wanted to actually work with a band with a good front man, great singer.
I tried, I actually had a separate deal with Sony to build a band around a singer, and we just could never find a singer. I think I spent like 3 or 4 years trying to do that, and we just never found the guy. So
but of course you did work with Purple temporarily, and you worked with Mick Jagger. They're a great frontmen, so that must have kind of given you a fillip towards doing that.
You know, it was great, and on the other hand, it was terrible because I could never find anyone as good as Ian Gillan. You know, and that's I was looking for somebody like that, and so that's when I thought, oh, the hell with the whole singer thing. You know, I'll go back to just doing my instrumental stuff, and then this thing kind of fell in my lap.
And of course, you did work with Gillan on Gillan In. Yeah, we met him last week. You mentioned it. It was great. So, just thinking about the band, if it does take off, and if everybody does embrace it, and there's 4 songs that we'll talk about shortly that are commercial and could really have good radio play. I mean, would you have the time to take time out from your own careers to actually see where it goes, to
I think so.
Run it to its potential?
I think that we have a clear schedule for this year to introduce ourselves properly to a good number of fans. You know, we have not only this festival tour booked, we have at least a 30-date tour booked in the U.S. that'll take us right to the end of September. So. We'll keep going.
Good. Well, hopefully it will kind of evolve and get bigger, and if you pick up the radio, which you hope you will, it's kind of a benchmark that's why I asked the question really in 2009, to see how a hard rock album like this, how far it can go, whether it can garner a new audience for one. Now we've got the internet, which kind of helps, whereas certain radio won't play you anymore, not just you but everybody. And
no, sometimes it's just me.
Just as an aside, were you surprised when your instrumental career took off as such?
Absolutely, but pleasantly so.
Because it was so different at the time.
Yeah, it was, and I've said it before that we really thought that the Surfing record was the last record that they'd ever let us make. And when I say us, I mean me and engineer John Cunnaberti, Jeff Campitelli, who was with me, because we had all been in part of a band before I went solo. So we thought, well, this is a lark, and it was so difficult to get the funding to get it finished. And when we handed it over, it was sort of like throwing our hands up and say, okay, we'll go back. We'll never bother anybody ever again. So when the album took off, it was a vindication as well as a complete surprise.
And here we are, and now you're ahead of the game. You're the guy that everybody looks to. I mean, playing wise and creative wise, album wise, and which makes the whole thing about Chickenfoot so interesting, of course, because looking at the 4 people in that band, I mean, again, in the PR, it's mentioned that you didn't put any pressure on yourselves, but actually you did, because you had to come up with all this material. You had to come up with an album worthy of the names in the band.
We did.
Did you feel that?
No, what we wanted was to make great songs. I think everyone was trying to impress the other guy in the band.
No bad thing.
By saying this is a great song, and if you think it needs something extra, please help me write it. And that was the way that we worked. And so Sammy would rewrite the songs over and over again. If he didn't like the lyrics, he would just come up with different concepts. So a song could, be about going this way or going that way, or sometimes he'd catch on to an idea and he would work it and work and work until he got the lyrics just perfect.
It's kind of organic then. It's kind of keeps it fresh.
It was great. And he sang on every take, and all the takes are all the songs that are on the record. The recordings are built around live takes.
Right.
Where there's a live bass, drum, and guitar part, and a lot of the vocals are from those live sessions.
Right. Getting back to some of the individual songs, songs like "Oh Yeah," "Running Out," and "My Kind of Girl," they've all got radio potential. They're all kind of crossover potential. Were they written with that in mind?
No, it's written in the most innocent way. Like "My Kind of Girl." I think I wrote that riff and I filmed it on my laptop, and I showed the guys, and it was more, I thought it was sort of a little bit more heavy metal sounding. And then when we got to the studio, I was plugged into this PV 50 watt that had a more jangly quality to it. So I started playing it, and Chad was like, I like it better like this. Kind of like more Rolling Stones sounding like. So it was like, okay, so I said pick a tempo. And so he found a tempo that he thought was right. And then
to suit his
his idea. And then Mike came in and he was thinking, well, maybe I could, reduce some of the things you're doing and come up with this, and I like that idea. And then Sammy starts singing. He bounds into the room and says, I got it. I know what this song's all about. I want to go sing it right now. Let's do it. So we had to quickly write a bridge and a solo section. That was the only thing that hadn't been written. So I came up with something with Mike on the spot, and then we recorded it, and bam, that was the first time we heard that it was going to be called My Kind of Girl. So it instantly became a lot more commercial just in a few organic moments in the studio.
That's the best way.
Yeah.
Very much so. On Soap on a Rope and Get It On, there are a couple of riffs on there which do sound like Led Zeppelin, or that kind of, they're derived from that kind of feel. Did you have those riffs before the songs came about?
No.
Were they part of the whole thing?
The song, it's actually Get It Up.
Get It Up.
Get It Up. Actually, that song was one of those songs that I didn't know if Sam would sing a song like that. And my demo was a bit more Nine Inch Nails sounding. It was more like it was kind of like that, and I thought, well, I'll just throw it out. And Chad really liked it, but he said, but let me do something different with it. And Chad wanted to have these dynamics. Both he and Sam said, let's do it so it's loud and soft and loud and soft.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of that. I like that.
And so I was really happy that they liked that, because I like the harmony of the song is something that really resonates with me. And so that came from a different place. Yeah.
And Down the Drain, that's another real kick-ass sort of number.
Yeah. Now that Down the Drain, I'm going to tell you, it's the funniest story. We were about to record, I'm pretty sure we were about to record Turning Left.
Right, which I want to talk about as
well. So I tuned up my guitar. When you're in the studio and you're doing takes, you're careful with your guitar. You get it tuned just right, and you try not to move and everything, because you want the take to be perfect. And I was just sort of playing a little riff from one of my songs from many records back, but just checking the tuning. And I'm looking up and I see Chad right over there, and he starts playing this kind of funny little thing, and I just all of a sudden come in with this bonk, dong, and I start playing this riff, and I'm playing it very lightly because I don't want to put my guitar out of tune, right? And I keep thinking, any second we're going to stop, and we're going to do what we're supposed to be doing, which is turning left, right? So I'm not really committed to what I'm playing. I'm just improvising, and then I hear Sam in the distance in my headphones. He's gone, is this a new song, Joe? Because they think...
Oh, that's what he says on the record. I was trying to work that out.
Yeah, he hasn't heard My Kind of Girl yet. At that point in the session.
Oh, that's great.
So he doesn't know if that's what I'm playing, but I can't hear him because he's not yet in my headphones, right? So we start playing. All of a sudden, his his mic comes on in my headphones, and he starts singing.
Yeah, I wonder what that was.
It was. So we wrote that song. That's when I say we wrote it instantly. I mean, what you hear is a recording of us writing it. And when we got to the end of it, we all looked back and we said, "You recorded that, I hope." And of course, Andy Johns knew from a second. That's why the guitar suddenly come on, because he heard me playing and he thought, "I think Joe's going to play something important. Yeah. I better record this."
Well, it's a good job as a producer to do that. And Turning Left, that we just mentioned, seems to be the track where everybody explodes. Everybody plays their true potential on the. That could almost be an instrumental.
It could be.
Sammy puts there's this incredible vocal on there, and one of the things he does, of course, is he phrases it almost the same way as you play the licks, which I think is fantastic. And did that happen spontaneously, or?
No, that was a song that was part of the original 6 or 7 demos that I wrote for them. And again, it was a song that had a slightly different drum approach to it. And I wasn't really quite sure if they would like it or anything like that.
Okay.
But they all loved it, and of course Chad turned it around, and Mike played something on the bass that I could never play, and that really propelled it. And then Sam said to me, "I want to do a vocal part that's almost like a horn part." Ba-da, ba-da, da-da, ba-da-da-da-da-da. So, and right before we were about to do that take, I think Chad said to me, he goes, "Back on your demo, weren't you doing some like rhythm thing?" And I went, "Yeah." And he said, "Why don't you do that again?" So I thought, okay. And all of a sudden that take, and I went over to I was standing by my amp, but my speaker bottom was in an ISO booth to my right.
Okay.
But I realized this is the kind of song where you want to be near your amp. So I opened the 2 sliding doors so that I could turn my guitar right into the speaker and get feedback. Because it was the kind of song you have to kind of let loose and keep it raw.
And on some of the songs there, you've got different tone colours on your guitar. Almost sounds Eastern on some of them. I mean, do you change that according to the song, or what determines what you do on your guitar?
It's the song. You want the song to dictate how you're phrasing, how you're setting your amp. If you need a 12-string, if you need a B3, you need a banjo, you just do it. So.
And does Andy Johns ever suggest stuff like that to you?
All the time, as the producer. Here's a good example. So we're just about finished with My Kind of Girl, and he says, "Joe," he said, "bear with me for a second. I got this crazy idea," and he said, "I want you to get all your harmonicas out and get a sound that you like out of your mini colossal amp there, and meet me outside in the music room." So I go out there, and he goes, "Okay, what I want you to do is," he said, I'm gonna give you like 8 tracks, and I want you to play 1 note each on the harmonica, but you're gonna have to take a really deep breath for these things to go, and play them out like that. So I was like, okay, I'll just do what you say, and we'll see where this leads.
That's good.
And then after a few moments, I come back in, and he had multi-tracked all these harmonicas playing almost like an organ part. And he just barely mixed it into the guitars, and it's the perfect introduction sound to that song, where it kind of propels it, but you don't know what it is. You go, what is that I'm listening to? Is that an organ? Is that are those guitars? So. So it was fun working with him.
And having gone through all the rock stuff before, you get to Learning to Fall, which is all kind of subtlety and restraint. I mean, was that a conscious decision to have a kind of rock ballad at the end there, or near the end, to balance the whole sequencing out? We
actually had 2 ballads. I mean, we had a lot of songs. And it was hard to drop one of the 2 of these things. And I mean, I think there was some days we'd go in and we'd say, "No ballads, we're men, no ballads," And then other days, you'd walk in and you go, "Sam, I listened to that song and that line you sing, it's so beautiful. We got to do that song." So we just did it. We just, and the vocal performance is the main vocal is Sam singing live with us. And there was a special moment in the studio, because he's singing about something very important, and he's kind of bearing his soul and being honest in a certain way that I don't think people have heard him sing before. And so then when we were done with that take, it was kind of haunting, just the trio version. But we decided it needed, the proverbial electric 12 strings, the organ, and I piled a mass amount of stuff on that, and we we put it off in a corner and drenched it in some reverb, and it's just very supportive. And then Mike and Sam did these beautiful background vocals that are just huge sounding.
So it must be seen quite different when you are part of a big hitting band like this. You're sitting away, noodling away on all this wonderful instrumental stuff, and you basically do most of it yourself. And here you are with all these 4 people pulling the thing in different directions. And you seem to have come up with something style-wise, material-wise, and album-wise that could run. And I'm wondering, given the hard rock edge to it, is one of the reasons you brought Andy in as producer the fact that he was associated with Zeppelin and Stones and stuff like that?
I'd done The Extremist with him, and he had done a Van Halen record, so he wasn't a stranger to us, you know.
Yeah.
And besides the fact that he's enormously talented, and I just had a feeling that what this band needs is the kind of thing that he does naturally.
Yeah.
You know, that he would understand us. I guess that's what it came down to. I knew that he would understand not only the band, but he would understand me and my desires to make this the best sound it could be.
Yeah,
and to learn how to be delicate with it. Or other times I would trust him if he said, just go out there and just nail it, you know.
Yeah.
I would say I would feel confident that was the right decision. So.
And what can fans expect from the live show? Is it going to be the whole of the album or some of the album and bits?
I want to do the whole album and then maybe do some cover songs.
Would that be in 2 sets or straight away
Straight through, I think.
Yeah. On a personal note, you're very different to most of your contemporaries because, of course, you were a teacher before you entered into rock and roll. Did you have to significantly change your style of playing, let alone your lifestyle, when you embraced rock?
No, because, you know, it wasn't like I was a teacher, you know, corduroy jacket and the whole thing. Good morning, students. You know? No, I was a rock and roll kid since playing live shows since I was 14. And teaching was just something I did on the side. Every time I was teaching, I was in rock and roll bands. That's what I really did. I was trying to get ahead, get a gig like most people. But instead of having a straight job during the day, teaching just seemed like a more natural thing to do.
But it took on a big part of your life, of course.
It did, but you know, I taught one kid at a time, and it was in a music shop. It wasn't in a university or something like that. So, and I looked the same. I was just in t-shirts and jeans, and and I teach, and then I'd say, got a gig, you know.
And going back to your early days of starting and forming bands, who were your main influences back then?
Hendrix, Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, Deep Purple, Rolling Stones, Beatles, you know.
And nowadays?
The exact same bands plus any other good band that you can think of. From, you know, I listen to a lot of Radiohead, and they're as big an influence on me as you know, as 9 Inch Nails or Rage Against the Machine.
And where would you actually where would you hear those people?
Where would I hear them?
Yeah, on your computer and stuff like that.
Oh, I see what you mean.
When you're on the tour bus or something?
My computer's got all that stuff in it. My iPod's filled with it, and I keep music in the car, and I keep it in the house. And
that's good you're listening to it.
Yeah.
Anyway, this has been Pete Feenstra talking to Joe Satriani. It's been an absolute pleasure. I waited 23 years to do this. Joe, it's been absolutely great.
Thank
the
you
band
very
is
much.
called Chickenfoot. The album is called Chickenfoot. The album's released on the 6th of June through Adele on the Ear.
Yes.
Imprint.
Imprint.
Ear Music. And we're all looking forward to the gig at the Hammersmith. No, we're not. Shepherd's Bush Empire.
Shepherd's Bush. 25th is the voice from the beyond.
And you got the date of the record. It's June 8th.
June 8th.
On the record.
He's just messing with you. That's all. Just trying to confuse
Here we
you.
are.
Shepherd's Bush on the 25th. June 8th for the release of the record, and today is April
6th.
See?
Thank you and good afternoon.
Yeah, got it.